My fiancé kidnapped our 6-month-old daughter and demanded I sign away my rights as her father. My fiancé Becca disappeared with our daughter Lily when she was 6 months old. Just vanished one Tuesday morning in February. No note, no text, nothing. I came home from my shift at the hospital to an empty apartment. Crib gone, clothes gone, even the breast pump gone. I called everyone. Her mother said Becca needed space to figure things out. Figure what out? We have a baby. I don't know, Jason. She just needs time. Give her a few days. I filed a missing person report. The cops said adults can leave if they want. But she took my daughter. Is your name on the birth certificate? Of course. Then it's a custody issue. You'll need a lawyer. I spent 2 weeks calling Becca's phone, straight to voicemail. Her sister finally texted me. She's safe. Stop harassing our family. Harassing? She kidnapped my child. She's the mother. Mothers don't kidnap their own babies. 3 months. Nothing. I hired a private investigator with my savings. He found them in Arizona, living with some guy named Keith, whom she met online. I drove 14 hours straight, knocked on Keith's door. Becca answered as if nothing happened. Oh, Jason, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? You stole our daughter. I didn't steal her. I'm her mother. I needed a fresh start. With Keith. We're building a life here. I pushed past her. Lily was in a playpen wearing clothes I'd never seen. I picked her up. She didn't even recognize me. Put her down, Jason. You're scaring her. Scaring her? I'm her father. Becca actually smirked. Well, Keith's been more of a father these past months. Keith stepped forward. Hey man, maybe you should go. This is my house. I held Lily tighter. I'm not leaving without my daughter. Becca called the police. They showed up, looked at the situation. Sir, you need to leave the property. She kidnapped my child 3 months ago. The officer looked bored. Do you have a custody agreement? No, we were engaged. We live together. Without a custody order, she has as much right to the child as you do. You need to leave. I drove home empty-handed, filed for emergency custody the next day. Court date set for 6 weeks out. During those 6 weeks, Becca started posting on social media. Pictures of her, Keith, and Lily. Happy little family. Keith is teaching Lily to crawl. Keith is reading her bedtime stories. My own mother saw them. She looks happy, Jason. Maybe this is for the best. For the best? She stole my daughter. 2 weeks before court, Becca called me. I'm willing to work something out. You can see Lily every other weekend. Every other weekend? I'm her father. Keith and I are getting married. He wants to adopt her. It would be easier if you just signed over your rights. I laughed. Not happening. She got nasty. You were never ready to be a father anyway. Always working, never home. Keith has a flexible schedule. He works from home. Then Keith can watch her during your custody time. My custody time? Jason, be realistic. Courts favor mothers. I'm getting primary custody either way. You can fight it and waste money, or we can settle now. The day before court, she showed up at my apartment. No Keith, but she had Lily. I thought you should see her before tomorrow. You know, in case the judge limits your visitation. I'm asking for full custody, Becca. She laughed. Good luck with that. I'm the mother who's been primary caregiver. You abandoned us. Abandoned you? You disappeared. I needed space to heal from our toxic relationship. Toxic? We were planning our wedding. She started crying on cue. You were so controlling. I felt trapped. I had to escape for Lily's safety. For her safety? From what? Becca leaned in close. I've been documenting everything. Your anger issues, your drinking. What drinking? I have 1 beer after shift sometimes. That's not how I'll tell it in court. We got to court. Becca showed up with Keith and her entire family. She'd coached them all. Her mother testified I was absent. Her sister said I was aggressive. Keith testified he'd been more of a father to Lily than I ever was. Then the judge asked about the birth certificate. I submitted Lily's birth certificate as evidence. The judge looked at it, then looked at Becca. Ma'am, you listed Jason as the father. Yes, Your Honor. And you two were never married? We were engaged. The judge turned to me. Have you taken a paternity test? No, Your Honor. She's my daughter. The judge ordered one. Fastest results possible. 3 days later, we were back in court. The paternity test confirmed what I already knew. I'm Lily's biological father. 99.9% match. The judge read the results out loud in court, her voice flat and official, like she was ordering coffee instead of confirming my entire world. Becca's lawyer stood up before I could even process it. Your Honor, while we acknowledge the paternity results, biology alone doesn't establish fitness as a parent. My client has been the primary caregiver for 9 months now. She's established routines, medical care, and a stable home environment. Mr. Anderson has had minimal contact with the child during her formative months. I wanted to scream. Minimal contact because your client kidnapped her. But Jeffrey put his hand on my arm, keeping me quiet. Across the courtroom, Becca actually smirked at me. Keith wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close like they'd already won. The judge looked at me over her glasses. Mr. Anderson, I understand your frustration. However, family courts prioritize the best interests of the child above all else. I'm ordering a full custody evaluation by a court-appointed psychologist. In the meantime, you'll have supervised visitation twice weekly at an approved facility. Each visit will be 2 hours. The evaluation will take approximately 6 weeks. My chest felt tight. 2 hours. Twice a week. That's all I got after months of fighting. Becca gets to play house with Keith while I get 4 hours a week with my own daughter. The judge continued talking about evaluation procedures and filing deadlines, but I couldn't focus on anything except those 4 hours. Jeffrey's office smelled like old coffee and paper. He sat across from me at his desk, pulling out a yellow legal pad covered in notes. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear today. I slumped in the chair. I'm her father. The test proved it. He nodded slowly. Biology matters, Jason. It absolutely matters. But family courts have a strong bias toward the primary caregiver, and Becca established that role during those 3 months she was gone. Even though she stole Lily. Even though... He tapped his pen against the pad. The system sees a mother who's been caring for an infant full-time versus a father who works long hospital shifts. They don't care that she created the situation by leaving. They care about stability and continuity for the child. So what do? Document everything. Every visit, every interaction, every dollar you spend on Lily. We need to build a case showing you're the more stable parent. This is a long game. Months, not weeks. Maybe longer. I thought about my bank account, already drained from hiring the private investigator and Jeffrey's retainer. How much is this going to cost? He didn't look away. A lot. Custody battles are expensive, especially when the other side is fighting hard. I can work with you on payment plans, but you need to know this could run into tens of thousands. My savings were almost gone. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital whenever I could, but legal fees ate through money faster than I could earn it. I don't have a choice. He smiled slightly. No, you don't. Not if you want your daughter back. We'll start with the evaluation. Be honest with the psychologist. Show them you're committed, stable, and focused on Lily's well-being. Don't badmouth Becca, even though you have every right to. Stay calm, stay consistent, and trust the process. I left his office feeling worse than when I'd arrived. The process. Trust the process. I'd been trusting the process for months, and I still didn't have my daughter. The visitation center looked like a sad daycare. Beige walls, cheap plastic toys scattered across a worn carpet, and fluorescent lights that buzzed constantly. A woman with a clipboard introduced herself as my monitor. She'd be observing and taking notes for the court. I'm here to help facilitate a positive interaction between you and Lily. Try to relax and just focus on bonding with your daughter. Relax. Right. Becca walked in carrying Lily, who was bigger than I remembered. She'd grown so much in the months since I'd seen her. New clothes, new shoes, even her hair was longer. Becca handed her to me without a word and left immediately. The monitor started her timer. Lily looked at me like I was a stranger. Because I was. I tried to smile. Hey, baby girl, and it's Daddy. She started crying immediately, reaching for the monitor instead of me. My heart cracked right down the middle. She used to fall asleep on my chest every single night. I'd walk her around our apartment at 2 a.m, singing stupid songs until she stopped fussing. Now she didn't even know me. The monitor made a note on her clipboard. It's normal for children to need adjustment time. Just try engaging her with some toys. I sat on the floor, pulling out a plastic stacking ring toy. Lily cried harder. I tried a stuffed animal. She threw it. I tried peekaboo. She turned away from me and crawled toward the monitor, pulling on her pants leg. The woman picked her up gently. Let's try again in a few minutes. She needs to feel safe first. Safe. My own daughter didn't feel safe with me. I spent the next hour and 45 minutes trying everything I could think of. Singing, making funny faces, offering every toy in the room. Lily mostly ignored me, occasionally glancing over but never coming closer. The monitor wrote constantly, her pen scratching across page after page. When Becca came back to pick Lily up, my daughter actually smiled and reached for her mother. The contrast was brutal. Becca took her without looking at me. Same time on Thursday. The monitor touched my shoulder after they left. Don't be discouraged. These things take time. Building attachment after separation is a process. There was that word again. Process. My shift at the hospital started at 6 the next morning. I'd barely slept. replaying every moment of the visit in my head. Lily's crying face, her reaching for anyone except me, the monitor's notes. I moved through my rounds on autopilot, checking vitals and updating charts. A nurse asked me a question about a patient's medication, and I stared at her blankly for several seconds before my brain caught up. "You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." I wasn't okay. I was falling apart. Around 10, I nearly made a massive error. I was preparing medications for a patient, measuring out dosages, when my supervisor caught me. "Jason, that's not the right medication." I looked down at the syringe in my hand. She was right. I'd grabbed the wrong vial, too focused on Lily to pay attention to what I was doing. If I'd given that injection, the patient could have had a serious reaction. My hands started shaking. "I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking." She pulled me aside, away from the other nurses. "Come with me." We went to the break room and she closed the door. "Talk to me. What's going on?" I told her everything. The custody battle, the supervised visits, Lily not recognizing me. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You need to take some personal leave." "Number. I can't afford it. Legal bills are crushing me." "Jason, you almost hurt a patient today. I know you're going through hell, but you can't work like this." "I'll be more careful, I promise. I'll focus better." She shook her head. "I'm not asking. Take a week. Get your head straight. Come back when you can actually be present. But the bills. We'll figure something out. Your health and your patient's safety come first." I spent my lunch break sitting in my car in the parking lot, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Everything was falling apart. My daughter didn't know me. My job was at risk. My savings were gone. And I still had months of fighting ahead of me. 2 weeks after the first hearing, Becca's lawyer filed another motion. Jeffrey called me at work to tell me. They're requesting child support. My stomach dropped. I barely have any custody time. Doesn't matter. You're the father. You have financial obligations. They're arguing you abandoned those obligations when Becca left. I didn't abandon anything. She disappeared. I tried to find them. I sent money. I know. We'll counter with documentation of everything you did to locate them and provide support. But Jason, you need to prepare yourself. The judge will probably order temporary support payments while the custody case proceeds. How much? He paused. Based on your income and the current custody arrangement, probably around $800 a month. $800. I was already stretched thin. That would break me completely. This is insane. I don't even get to see her except 4 hours a week. Jeffrey's voice was calm but firm. It's a common tactic. They're trying to drain your resources, make you give up the fight. Don't let them win. We spent the next week gathering bank statements, text messages, phone records, anything showing I'd tried to find Lily and support her. Jeffrey filed our response, arguing that Becca had deliberately prevented me from providing support by disappearing without contact information. The judge reviewed both motions at a brief hearing. She listened to both lawyers, looked at the evidence, and made her decision. "Mr. Anderson, I understand your position. However, you do have financial obligations to your child regardless of the custody arrangement. I'm ordering temporary child support of $750 per month, effective immediately. $750 every month, on top of Jeffrey's fees, on top of rent and bills and everything else." Becca smiled as we left the courthouse. Keith had his arm around her waist. They looked like they'd won the lottery. My phone rang 3 days later. Mom's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. She'd hurt me with her initial reaction, suggesting maybe Becca having Lily was for the best. But I picked up anyway. "Jason, honey, I'm so sorry." "For what?" "For not believing you at first. For not understanding what she did to you. I should have been on your side from the beginning." I sat down on my couch, suddenly exhausted. "It's okay." "No, it's not. I saw the pictures she's posting online with that man, acting like he's Lily's father. It made me sick. You're her father, you're my son. And I want to help however I can." Something in my chest loosened slightly. "I don't know what you can do. I can come to your next visit. Help Lily feel more comfortable. She knows me. Maybe having family there will help her warm up to you." I hadn't thought of that. The monitor had said Lily needed to feel safe. Maybe my mother's presence would help. "You'd do that?" "Of course I would. I love you. And I love my granddaughter. We're going to fight this together." I felt like crying again, but for a different reason this time. "Thank you, Mom. I really need the support right now. You have it. Whatever you need, we'll get through this." After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my apartment for a long time. Maybe I wasn't completely alone in this fight after all. My second visit with Lily happened on Thursday. Mom came with me carrying a small bag of toys she'd bought. The monitor greeted us both. Family visits often help children feel more secure. This is a good idea. Becca dropped Lily off and left quickly. This time, Lily didn't cry immediately when she saw me. She looked curious instead, especially when she noticed my mother. Mom sat on the floor and started singing softly. It was an old lullaby she used to sing to me when I was little. Lily's head turned toward the sound. She crawled closer, watching Mom's face. Mom kept singing, gentle and calm, and held out her hand. Lily grabbed her finger, holding on while she listened to the song. My mother looked at me and nodded. "Come sit with us." I moved slowly, sitting next to Mom. Lily glanced at me but didn't pull away this time. Mom started a new song, one with hand motions, and Lily watched with wide eyes. I joined in carefully, making the same gestures. Lily didn't cry. She didn't reach for me yet, but she didn't cry. After a few minutes, she grabbed my finger too, just for a second before pulling away. That tiny touch felt like everything. The monitor wrote on her clipboard, and for once I hoped it was something positive. We spent the rest of the visit singing, playing with toys, and letting Lily move at her own pace. She never fully warmed up to me, but she didn't scream or try to escape either. Progress. When Becca came back, the monitor spoke to her briefly. Lily showed good improvement today. The family presence helped. Becca's expression tightened, but she didn't say anything. She took Lily and left. Mom hugged me in the parking lot. "See? We're getting somewhere. She's starting to remember." I hope so, because I couldn't keep doing this if there was no hope at all. Jeffrey called me into his office the following week. I think we need to dig deeper into Keith's background. Becca's lawyer keeps presenting him as this stable father figure, but something feels off. I agreed. Everything about Keith felt wrong. Jeffrey knew a private investigator named Reed who specialized in background checks. Reed was expensive, but Jeffrey convinced me it was worth it. If Keith has anything in his past that raises red flags, we need to know about it. It could change everything. Reed worked fast. Within a week, he had information that made my blood run cold. He came to Jeffrey's office to present his findings. I pulled Keith's social media history going back 6 years. He's been in 3 serious relationships during that time. Each one followed the same pattern. He meets a single mother online, moves in within weeks, presents himself as a father figure to her kids. Then what happens? Reed flipped through printed screenshots. The relationships end badly. In 2 cases, the mothers filed restraining orders. In one case, there was a custody dispute where the biological father accused Keith of trying to push him out of his kid's life. The case settled out of court, but the accusations are documented. I felt sick. This is who Becca brought into Lily's life. Jeffrey leaned forward. This is good for us. It shows a pattern. Keith targets vulnerable women with children. He's not interested in being a stable partner. He's interested in playing house until things fall apart. Can we use this in court? Absolutely. Reed's going to keep digging, but this alone raises serious concerns about Lily's environment. No judge wants to place a child in a home with someone who has this kind of history. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. I picked up every extra shift the hospital would give me. My supervisor had insisted I take that week off, but after that I was back, working doubles whenever possible. The legal fees were crushing me. Jeffrey's bills, Reed's investigation costs, the child support payments. I was surviving on 4 hours of sleep most nights, running on coffee and determination. My coworkers noticed. I'd lost weight. My uniforms hung looser than they used to. Dark circles under my eyes made me look 10 years older. But they were supportive, covering for me when I had to leave for court appearances or meetings with Jeffrey. One nurse named Sarah pulled me aside during a break. I went through a custody battle 5 years ago, lost almost everything fighting for my son. I won eventually, but it nearly destroyed me. She touched my arm gently. Don't give up. I know it feels impossible right now. I know you're exhausted and broke and scared, but your daughter needs you to keep fighting. Did it get better? After you won? She smiled. So much better. Every sacrifice was worth it. My son is 12 now and we're closer than ever. He knows I fought for him. That matters. Her words kept me going through the next brutal weeks. When I wanted to collapse, I remembered that eventually this would end. Eventually I'd have Lily home. Eventually she'd know I never stopped fighting for her. Becca posted new photos on social media. Keith teaching Lily to clap. Keith reading her a bedtime story. Keith making funny faces while Lily laughed. The captions made me want to throw my phone across the room. Daddy Keith showing Lily how to play. Our little family. Building memories. I called Jeffrey immediately. She's doing this on purpose. I'm trying to make me lose it. He was calm. I know. And you're not going to react. Don't comment. Don't message her. Don't engage at all. But he's calling himself her father. That's exactly what we want her to do. Her social media performance actually helps our case. It shows she's more interested in appearances than Lily's actual well-being. A good mother wouldn't post this stuff knowing it hurts you. She'd protect her daughter's relationship with both parents, screenshot everything. I spent an hour going through Becca's entire social media presence, saving every photo, every caption, every comment. Jeffrey was right. She wasn't posting about Lily's development or milestones. She was posting about Keith. Look at us. Look at our perfect life. Look at how Lily loves him. It was all performance, all designed to hurt me and push me out. I saved everything to a folder on my computer. Documentation for court. Proof that Becca cared more about her new relationship than her daughter's need for both parents. My hands shook while I worked, rage and heartbreak mixing together. But I didn't comment, didn't message, didn't give her the reaction she wanted. I just saved the evidence and kept fighting. My third visit started like the others. The visitation center smelled like cleaning products and stale coffee. I showed up 15 minutes early with a bag of toys I'd bought specifically for Lily, soft blocks and a stuffed elephant. The monitor checked me in, same woman as before, clipboard already in hand. She led me to the same sterile room with the same plastic chairs and worn carpet. Lily was in a playpen near the window. She looked up when I walked in. For a second, she just stared at me. Then something changed in her expression. Not recognition exactly, but maybe familiarity. Like she knew my face even if she couldn't place it yet. I sat down on the floor near the playpen and pulled out the stuffed elephant, made it dance a little. Lily watched, curious. I made a silly face, scrunching my nose and sticking out my tongue. She smiled. Actually smiled at me. My chest got tight and I had to look away for a second because tears were pushing at the back of my eyes. When I looked back, she was still watching me. I made the face again. She giggled this time, a real baby laugh. I nearly lost it completely. The monitor wrote something on her clipboard, but for once I didn't care what she was documenting. Lily smiled at me. That was all that mattered. I picked her up carefully, waiting to see if she'd cry or pull away. She didn't. She grabbed my shirt with her little fist and settled against my chest. We sat like that for 10 minutes, maybe more. She played with my fingers and babbled sounds that weren't quite words yet. Then she got fussy and reached for the monitor. I handed her over without arguing. The monitor noted in her report that Lily was becoming more comfortable with me, that the attachment was forming. I left feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Real hope that maybe we could fix this. Reed called 2 days later while I was eating lunch in my car between shifts. He'd found something. Keith's employment history showed a pattern. He'd been fired from his last job at a tech company. The official reason was performance issues, but Reed had talked to someone who worked there. The real reason was inappropriate behavior toward a female coworker. Nothing criminal, no charges filed, but enough that the company let him go quietly. Reed had also pulled Keith's financial records, the public ones at least. Credit card debt over $30,000, multiple cards maxed out, collection notices on 2 of them. But here was the interesting part. Becca had access to money. Her grandmother died 2 years ago and left her about $80,000. Becca had mentioned it once when we were together, said she was saving it for Lily's college fund. Reed found bank records showing regular transfers from Becca's account to Keith's over the past few months. 500 here, 1,000 there. Keith was borrowing from her. Or maybe not borrowing, maybe just taking. The pattern suggested Keith's interest in Becca might not be purely romantic. He'd moved in with a single mother who had access to a decent chunk of money. He had no job now and significant debt. The math wasn't complicated. I thanked Reed and told him to keep digging. This information could show the judge that Keith wasn't the stable father figure Becca's lawyer kept claiming he was. He was unemployed, in debt, and potentially using Becca for financial support. That wasn't a good environment for my daughter. Jeffrey filed the motion 3 days later. He requested full psychological evaluations for me, Becca, and Keith. The motion argued that Lily's best interests required understanding everyone's mental health, motivations, and fitness to parent. Jeffrey explained that psychological evaluations were common in contested custody cases, especially when there were concerns about a parent's judgment or a third party's influence. Becca's lawyer objected immediately, filed a response calling the request invasive and unnecessary. Jeffrey smiled when he showed me the objection. That's a good sign. They're worried about what an evaluation might show. If they had nothing to hide, they'd agree readily to prove Keith is stable. The objection tells me they know something will come out that hurts their case. We had a hearing scheduled to argue the motion. The judge listened to both lawyers. Becca's lawyer claimed the evaluation was just a delay tactic, that I was trying to drag out the case and rack up legal fees to force Becca into settling. Jeffrey countered with Reed's findings about Keith's employment termination and his financial situation. He argued that given Keith's significant presence in Lily's life and Becca's insistence on his parental role, the court needed to understand his psychological fitness and motivations. The judge granted the motion, ordered evaluations for all 3 adults. Becca looked pale when the judge made the ruling. Keith wasn't in court that day, but I imagined he wouldn't be happy about having his mental health scrutinized by a professional. The evaluations were scheduled to start within 2 weeks. We'd each meet with a court-appointed psychologist named Megan Swanson for multiple sessions. Her report would be submitted to the court and would carry significant weight in the final custody determination. Becca's sister reached out through a mutual friend. A guy I used to work with at the hospital texted me saying someone wanted to talk to me confidentially. He gave me a number. I called it. Becca's sister answered. She sounded nervous. Said she couldn't talk long because Keith monitored Becca's phone and she didn't want him finding out she'd contacted me. She'd witnessed some things at Becca's house in Arizona that worried her. She wouldn't give details over the phone, but agreed to talk to Jeffrey in person. She was flying back to our city the following week for work and could meet with him then. This was huge. Becca's family had been completely united against me since this started. Her mother testified against me. Her sister sent me that text telling me to stop harassing them. Now her sister was reaching out privately with concerns. Jeffrey said this was the first crack in their united front. Family members turning against each other's testimony was powerful in court. It showed that even people who wanted to support Becca couldn't ignore what they were seeing. I didn't know what Becca's sister had witnessed, but it was serious enough that she was willing to go against her own family to talk about it. Jeffrey scheduled a meeting with her for the following Tuesday at his office. He'd record her statement and potentially call her as a witness if the information was relevant to Lily's safety or well-being. My 4th visit happened on a Saturday morning. I brought more toys and a picture book about animals. Lily was already in the playpen when I arrived. This time when she saw me, she actually crawled toward the edge of the playpen, pulling herself up on the mesh sides. She was trying to get to me. The monitor helped her out, and Lily crawled across the floor straight to me. She grabbed my leg and pulled herself up to standing, wobbling a little. I held her hands to steady her while she practiced standing. She was getting stronger, more confident. We played like that for a while, me helping her stand and walk a few steps before she'd plop down and crawl somewhere else. The monitor actually smiled while watching us. She made notes, but her expression was warm instead of clinical. When the visit ended and I had to leave, Lily cried a little. Not a lot, just some fussy sounds and reaching for me as the monitor picked her up. The monitor said this was actually a good sign. It showed Lily was forming attachment. She was starting to miss me when I left. That was progress. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. My daughter was remembering me. She wanted me. The bond we'd had before Becca took her was slowly rebuilding itself. My first session with Megan took place in her office downtown. Professional space with diplomas on the wall and comfortable chairs. She had kind eyes but a serious demeanor. The session lasted 2 hours. She asked about everything. My relationship with Becca, how we met, when things started going wrong. My parenting philosophy, what kind of father I wanted to be. My work schedule at the hospital, how I'd balance custody with my shifts. My support system, who would help me with childcare. I answered honestly. Told her about coming home to an empty apartment, about the 3 months of not knowing where my daughter was, about the financial strain of legal fees and how I'd picked up extra shifts to cover them, about my mother's support and how she'd been attending visits to help Lily feel comfortable. Megan asked about my drinking. I explained that Becca had made false accusations about alcohol abuse, that I occasionally had a beer after work, but had never had a drinking problem. She asked if I'd be willing to submit to random drug and alcohol testing. I agreed immediately. I had nothing to hide. She asked about my anger, whether I'd ever been violent or aggressive. I told her no, that I'd been frustrated and desperate but never violent, that I'd never raised a hand to Becca or anyone else. Megan wrote constantly, but her face gave nothing away. I couldn't tell if she believed me or if she thought I was lying. She was professional, measured, careful not to show bias either way. At the end of the session, she scheduled a follow-up for the next week, said she'd need at least 3 sessions with me to complete her evaluation. I left her office with no idea whether she was sympathetic to my case or skeptical of my claims. Jeffrey met with Becca's sister on Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't allowed to be present because she'd agreed to talk confidentially. Jeffrey called me that evening with an update. What Becca's sister revealed was worse than I'd expected. Keith was controlling about Becca's contact with her family. He monitored her phone constantly, read her texts, checked who she called. Becca seemed anxious all the time, different from how she used to be. Jumpy, nervous, always checking to see what Keith thought before she spoke. Becca's sister had visited them in Arizona twice since they'd moved in together. Both times, Keith was present for every conversation. He wouldn't leave the room even when Becca's sister tried to talk to Becca alone. The sister also witnessed Keith's temper. He got angry when Lily cried or needed attention during meals. He'd yell at Becca to make Lily be quiet. Once he'd slammed his hand on the table so hard the dishes rattled. Lily had cried harder, and Keith had stormed out of the room. Becca apologized for him afterward, made excuses about him being stressed, but her sister saw fear in Becca's eyes. We discussed whether this information was enough to request supervised visitation for Becca as well. Jeffrey thought it might be. If Keith was controlling and had anger issues, and if Becca was too scared or influenced by him to protect Lily, then maybe she shouldn't have unsupervised time either. Not until she got away from Keith, or until Keith completed anger management. We decided to hold off on that motion for now. Let Megan's evaluation process play out first. But we documented everything Becca's sister said, and Jeffrey prepared to call her as a witness if needed. Reed found more records. Court documents from 3 years ago showing Keith had been involved in a custody dispute with an ex-girlfriend. The woman had accused Keith of trying to alienate her from her child, of inserting himself into the parental role and pushing her out. She'd claimed Keith told her daughter to call him daddy, that he made decisions about the child without consulting her, that he tried to control her contact with her own daughter. The case settled out of court, so there was no final ruling, but the accusations were documented in the filings. Jeffrey was excited about this. It showed a pattern. Keith had done this before. He targeted single mothers, moved in quickly, took over the father role, and tried to push out the biological parent. He was doing the exact same thing with Becca and Lily. The pattern was documented proof that this wasn't just about Keith loving Becca and wanting to help raise her child. This was Keith's established behavior. He found vulnerable women with children and inserted himself into their families. Then he worked to eliminate the other parent's role. Jeffrey said this was exactly what we needed to demonstrate to the judge. Keith wasn't a stable father figure. He was someone who exploited family situations for his own purposes. We filed a motion to introduce Keith's prior custody dispute as evidence of his pattern of behavior. Becca's lawyer would probably object, but Jeffrey was confident the judge would allow it as relevant to assessing Keith's fitness and motivations. My 5th visit was on a Wednesday afternoon. I'd requested the day off work specifically for this visit because I didn't want to be rushed or tired. Lily was playing with blocks when I arrived. She looked up and her face lit up. She crawled to me immediately and I picked her up. We played with the blocks together, stacking them and knocking them down. She laughed every time they fell. Then she looked right at me and said it clearly. Dada. My heart stopped. She said it again. Dada. I had to turn away so she wouldn't see me crying. My shoulders shook and I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. The monitor noticed but didn't say anything, just kept writing. When I could breathe again, I turned back to Lily. She was watching me with those big eyes. I picked her up and held her close. She patted my face with her little hand. Dada. The word felt like healing. Like proof that she remembered me, that our bond wasn't broken, that all this fighting was worth it. My mother had come to this visit too. When it ended, she hugged me in the parking lot. Lily knows who you are. She's remembering. You're her father and she's starting to understand that again. I drove home and allowed myself to cry properly. Relief and joy and grief all mixed together. My daughter called me Dada. After everything, she still knew me. Becca had her evaluation session with Megan 3 days after mine. Jeffrey got a brief update from Megan's office through official channels. Apparently it hadn't gone well. Becca became defensive when asked about why she left without telling me. She'd stuck to her story about needing to escape a toxic, controlling relationship. But when Megan pressed for specific examples of my controlling behavior, Becca struggled. She mentioned me working a lot, being tired when I got home, not helping enough with Lily. None of that was controlling behavior. That was just normal relationship stress. Megan had apparently asked pointed questions about Keith. How long Becca had known him before moving in. Why she'd chosen to leave the state instead of just moving to a different apartment in the city. Whether Keith had influenced her decision to leave. Becca got flustered and defensive. Becca's lawyer tried to spin it afterward, sent a letter to the court claiming the evaluation was biased and that Megan had asked inappropriate questions designed to make Becca look bad. Jeffrey said that was desperation. If the evaluation had gone well, they wouldn't be complaining about the process. The fact that they were trying to discredit Megan before her report was even complete told Jeffrey that Becca knew the evaluation hadn't supported her case. Megan scheduled a second session with Becca to explore these issues further. She wanted to understand Becca's decision-making process and her relationship with Keith more thoroughly. That second session was scheduled for the following week. Jeffrey said multiple sessions with one party usually meant the psychologist had concerns that needed more investigation. It was looking more and more like Megan's report would raise serious questions about Becca's judgment and Keith's influence over her. 2 days after Megan's second session with Becca, a letter arrived at my apartment. The return address showed Becca's mother's name. I stared at the envelope for 5 minutes before opening it. Inside was a single page written in neat handwriting asking if we could meet privately. She suggested a coffee shop downtown and included her phone number. I called Jeffrey immediately and read him the letter. He told me to be careful, but agreed I should hear what she had to say. We set up the meeting for that Saturday morning. I arrived early and sat near the back corner where I could see the entrance. She walked in 10 minutes later looking older than I remembered from court. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. She ordered coffee and sat across from me without saying anything for a moment. Then she apologized. She said she was sorry for not believing me when Becca first left. She admitted she should have known something was wrong when Becca disappeared without warning. She explained that Becca had always been impulsive, but this was different. She looked scared now when she talked about Keith. I asked what she meant by scared. She described visiting them in Arizona and noticing how Becca checked with Keith before answering simple questions. How Keith spoke for Becca when the conversation got uncomfortable. How Becca seemed anxious the entire visit. She said she tried calling Becca last week to talk about coming home, but Keith answered the phone and told her to stop interfering in their family. Then he hung up. She hadn't been able to reach Becca since. She looked directly at me and said she was worried about both Becca and Lily in that house. She asked what she could do to help. I told her Jeffrey would contact her about testifying. She nodded and said she would tell the truth, even though it meant going against her daughter's stated wishes. She stood to leave, but paused. She said Lily deserved better than what was happening. Then she walked out. I sat there finishing my coffee and processing what just happened. Becca's own mother was willing to testify against her living situation. Jeffrey called it a major development when I told him. He scheduled a meeting with her for the following week to get her full statement documented. Jeffrey got word through his contacts that Keith had his evaluation session with Megan. It didn't go well. Keith apparently spent most of the session talking about himself as Lily's real father. He dismissed my role completely and claimed I was just a biological donor who abandoned his family. Megan pressed him on why he thought it was appropriate to assume a parental role so quickly. He got defensive and said someone had to step up since I wasn't there. When Megan asked about his previous relationships, he became evasive. She asked specific questions about his financial situation and why he moved so often. He struggled to give clear answers. At one point, he accused Megan of being biased against him because Becca had warned him the system favored biological fathers over real parents who did the work. Megan ended the session early and didn't schedule a follow-up with him. Jeffrey said that was significant. It meant she'd seen enough to form her professional opinion. The evaluation report would be submitted to the court within 2 weeks. We just had to wait. My 6th visit with Lily happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd taken the day off work specifically for this visit. When I arrived at the center, Lily was already in the play area. She looked up and her face lit up. She crawled over quickly and pulled herself up using my leg. I helped her stand and held her hands. We practiced walking together across the room. She laughed every time she took a step. The sound made everything worth it. I made silly noises and she giggled harder. She was clearly bonded with me now. The monitor wrote notes and smiled at our interaction. We played with blocks and read books. Lily sat in my lap the entire time. When the hour ended, Becca arrived to pick her up. I watched Lily's reaction carefully. She didn't immediately reach for Becca. She stayed in my arms for a moment, looking between us. Becca's face changed. Her jaw tightened and her eyes got hard. She held out her arms more forcefully. Lily finally went to her but looked back at me. Becca grabbed the diaper bag and left without saying anything. The monitor noted everything in her report. 3 days later, Jeffrey called me at work. Becca had filed a complaint with the visitation center. She claimed I was trying to turn Lily against her. She cited the last visit when Lily didn't want to leave with her. She demanded the center investigate my behavior during visits. Jeffrey wasn't worried. He said this was projection. Becca was insecure about Lily's growing attachment to me and was lashing out. The complaint actually helped our case by showing her instability and poor judgment. The visitation center reviewed all the monitor's notes from my visits. They found nothing inappropriate in my behavior. The monitor had documented natural father-daughter bonding and age-appropriate play. They dismissed Becca's complaint as unfounded within 48 hours. Jeffrey sent me a copy of their response. It stated clearly that children forming secure attachments with both parents were healthy and expected. The complaint went into our evidence file as another example of Becca's attempts to interfere with my relationship with Lily. November turned into December and the holidays approached. I picked up every extra shift I could get at the hospital. I needed money for Christmas presents for Lily, even though I wouldn't see her on Christmas Day itself. The custody arrangement gave Becca all major holidays this year. I worked doubles and covered for other nurses who wanted time off. My paycheck grew, but I was exhausted. One night in the break room, my coworkers asked why I was working so much. I explained about needing money for Lily's gifts. The next day, they passed around an envelope. Everyone had chipped in. There was almost $400 inside. One nurse I barely knew had donated $100 by herself. She pulled me aside and said every child deserves to have both parents fight for them. She said her ex-husband gave up on their kids, and she wished someone had fought like I was fighting. I went to my car during lunch and cried. The kindness from people who barely knew my situation made me emotional. I used the money to buy Lily toys and books and clothes. I wrapped everything carefully, even though I wouldn't be there when she opened them. Mid-December, Jeffrey called with an update. Megan had completed her evaluation report and submitted it to the court. We wouldn't see the contents until the hearing scheduled for early January. Jeffrey said the fact that Megan had requested a second session with Becca, but not with me, was potentially a good sign. It suggested she had concerns about Becca that needed more exploration. We spent the next 2 weeks preparing for the hearing. Jeffrey reviewed all our documentation about Keith's background. Reed had compiled everything into a detailed report showing Keith's pattern of targeting single mothers and inserting himself into their families. We had testimony lined up from Becca's mother and sister. We had the visitation center's reports showing my appropriate parenting and Lily's secure attachment to me. We had Megan's evaluation. Jeffrey felt confident but warned me that family court was unpredictable. Judges had wide discretion in custody cases. We just had to present the strongest case possible and hope the judge saw what we saw. My 7th visit fell 2 days before Christmas. I brought all the wrapped presents for Lily. The monitor helped me carry them inside. Lily's eyes went wide when she saw the packages. She crawled over and touched the bright paper. I helped her open each gift. She got excited about the toys and books. We played with everything together. She particularly loved a stuffed elephant that played music when you squeezed it. She hugged it and laughed. I read her new books and she pointed at the pictures. After an hour, she got sleepy. She climbed into my lap and laid her head on my shoulder. I kept reading quietly until she fell asleep. The monitor took photos for the record. These moments were what I'd been fighting for all along. Normal father-daughter bonding, reading together, her trusting me enough to fall asleep in my arms. When the visit ended, I had to wake her gently to hand her back to Becca. She rubbed her eyes and reached for me as Becca took her. I told her I loved her. She said something that sounded like "love you back." I drove home and allowed myself to feel hopeful about the upcoming hearing. The hearing was scheduled for January 8th. I requested the day off work weeks in advance. Jeffrey and I met at the courthouse an hour early to review our strategy one final time. Megan would testify first about her evaluation findings. Then we'd present evidence about Keith's background and testimony from Becca's family members. Becca's lawyer would try to discredit everything, but Jeffrey was ready to counter. We walked into the courtroom together. Becca was already there with her lawyer. Keith sat in the gallery behind her. The judge entered and called the hearing to order. Megan was sworn in and took the witness stand. Jeffrey asked her to summarize her evaluation findings. She spoke clearly and professionally. She stated that I demonstrated appropriate parenting skills during her evaluation. She noted my genuine attachment to Lily and my commitment to her well-being. She observed that I had stable employment and housing. She said my support system was strong with my mother's involvement. Then she turned to her concerns about Becca's situation. She noted Becca's defensiveness during both evaluation sessions. She said Becca's explanations for why she left were inconsistent and suggested possible coercion or outside influence. She raised concerns about Keith's boundary issues and the inappropriate speed at which he'd assumed a parental role. She stated that Keith's behavior during his evaluation raised red flags about his motivations and his understanding of healthy family dynamics. Megan testified that in her professional opinion, Lily's best interest would be served by increasing my custody time significantly. She recommended transitioning to unsupervised visitation immediately. She suggested working toward shared custody with equal time. Most importantly, she stated that Keith should not be allowed to interfere with my parental relationship with Lily. She said his presence created an unhealthy dynamic that prioritized the adult's relationship over the child's need for both biological parents. Becca's lawyer stood to cross-examine. She tried to suggest that Megan's evaluation was biased. She asked if Megan had considered that Keith was simply being protective of his new family. Megan responded calmly that protective behavior didn't include dismissing a biological father's role or attempting to replace him. She said Keith's behavior showed poor boundaries and concerning patterns. The lawyer asked if single mothers weren't allowed to move on and find new partners. Megan said of course they were, but new partners needed to respect existing parental relationships and not attempt to erase them. The judge thanked Megan for her testimony. I could see the judge was taking her professional assessment seriously. Becca looked pale. Her lawyer whispered urgently to her. Keith shifted in his seat, looking angry. Jeffrey squeezed my arm under the table. This was going better than we'd hoped. The judge cleared her throat and shuffled papers on her bench. She looked directly at me. Mr. Anderson, based on the evaluation findings and testimony presented today, I'm ordering unsupervised visitation effective immediately. You'll have your daughter every Saturday from 9 in the morning until 5 in the evening. No monitor, no restrictions. I felt my chest tighten with relief. 8 hours alone with Lily every week. The judge continued speaking. We'll reconvene in 2 months to discuss permanent custody arrangements. Both parties should prepare for that hearing with updated documentation. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Jeffrey grabbed my arm and squeezed hard. Becca stood abruptly, her chair scraping loud against the floor. Her face was red and twisted. She turned to her lawyer and started talking fast, her hands moving in angry gestures. Keith appeared from the gallery and followed them into the hallway. I could hear his raised voice through the door. Jeffrey packed his briefcase slowly, giving me time to process. You did it. First major victory. Unsupervised visits mean the court trusts you. I nodded but couldn't speak yet. My mother hugged me from behind. I'm so proud of you. When can we see her? This Saturday. I get her this Saturday. I walked out of the courtroom and saw Keith arguing with Becca's lawyer near the elevators. His face was purple with anger. Becca stood between them looking small and defeated. I turned away and headed for the stairs instead. Saturday morning arrived freezing cold with clear blue skies. I'd barely slept the night before, too nervous about my first unsupervised visit. I pulled up to the exchange location at 8:50, 10 minutes early. Becca's car was already there. She got out holding Lily bundled in a pink coat I'd never seen before. Lily saw me and smiled. Dada. My heart nearly exploded. I walked over and took her from Becca's arms. She came willingly, grabbing my jacket collar. I have her back by 5. Becca's voice was flat and cold. I know. 5 o'clock. Becca stared at me for a long moment. If anything happens to her, nothing will happen. She's my daughter. Becca got in her car and drove away without looking back. I buckled Lily into the car seat I'd bought and installed yesterday. She kicked her feet and babbled. We drove to the park near my apartment. The playground was mostly empty this early. I lifted Lily out and set her on the ground. She walked now, steady and confident. She headed straight for the swings. I followed and lifted her into the toddler swing. She laughed when I pushed her gently. Higher. No one was watching us. No monitor taking notes. No one judging every interaction. Just me and my daughter at the park on a Saturday morning. I pushed her for 20 minutes until my arms got tired. She didn't want to stop. More, Dada, more. Okay, a few more minutes. Then we'll go play on the slide. I took out my phone and snapped photos. Lily smiling on the swing. Lily pointing at a bird. Lily picking up leaves. I sent 3 pictures to my mother. She responded immediately with heart emojis and crying faces. After the playground, we walked around the park. Lily picked up sticks and rocks. She said new words constantly. Dog, tree, car, ball. I repeated everything back to her, encouraging her vocabulary. We found a bench and shared the snacks I'd packed. Apple slices, crackers, juice box. She ate messily, getting crumbs everywhere. I didn't care. At noon, we drove through for lunch. Lily ate chicken nuggets in her car seat while I drove us to a different park across town. She fell asleep on the drive. I parked and let her nap, sitting in the driver's seat and watching her breathe. Her face looked peaceful, relaxed. She woke after 40 minutes and we played at the second playground. She was braver here, climbing higher, going down bigger slides. I stayed close but let her explore. A few other parents arrived with their kids. They smiled at us. Normal Saturday morning at the park, just a dad with his daughter. Nothing unusual, nothing supervised. At 3 o'clock, Lily started getting cranky. Time to head home. I drove back toward the exchange location, taking the long way. She fell asleep again in her seat. I pulled into the parking lot at 4:50. Becca's car wasn't there yet. I kept driving around the block, not wanting to wake Lily early. At 4:58, I parked and gently unbuckled her. She stirred but didn't wake fully. Becca pulled in at 5 on the dot. I got out holding Lily. Becca walked over and reached for her. How was she? Perfect. We had a great day. Any problems? No problems. She ate well, took 2 naps, played at the park. Becca took Lily from my arms. Lily woke up and looked confused. Mama? Yeah, baby, we're going home now. Lily looked back at me over Becca's shoulder. Bye, Dada. Bye, sweetie. I love you. I watched them drive away. My arms felt empty. My chest ached. But I had another Saturday coming in 7 days. Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang while I was at work. Unknown number. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Hello? Mr. Anderson? This is Sandra Michaels from Child Protective Services. My stomach dropped. We received a complaint regarding your daughter, Lily. What kind of complaint? The caller alleged you returned the child with injuries after your visitation last Saturday. We're required to investigate. What injuries? I didn't hurt her. I understand this may be upsetting. I need to schedule a time to speak with you and inspect your home. When? As soon as possible. Tomorrow morning? I agreed and hung up. My hands shook. I called Jeffrey immediately. Becca filed a CPS complaint. She's claiming I hurt Lily. He sighed heavily. Of course she did. What's the allegation? Some kind of injury. They wouldn't give details. Don't panic. CPS has to investigate every complaint. Just cooperate fully and tell the truth. They'll see there's nothing to it. I could barely focus the rest of my shift. That night I cleaned my apartment top to bottom even though it was already clean. I checked every corner for anything that might look concerning. The next morning, Sandra Michaels arrived at 9. She was a tired-looking woman in her 40s carrying a thick folder. She asked to see where Lily would sleep. I showed her the small bedroom area I'd set up. She took notes. She asked about my work schedule, my childcare plans, my support system. I answered every question honestly. She inspected my kitchen, bathroom, living room. She opened my refrigerator and cabinets. More notes. Can you tell me what happened during your visit Saturday? We went to the park. She played on the swings and slides. We had lunch. She took naps in the car. We played at a second park. That's it. Did Lily fall or get hurt in any way? Not that I saw. She was fine the whole day. Sandra pulled out a photo from her folder. This bruise on her leg. When did this occur? I looked at the photo. Small purple bruise on Lily's shin. I don't know. She didn't have that when she was with me. Are you certain? Positive. She was wearing pants the whole day. I would have noticed if she got hurt. Sandra made more notes. I'll need to verify some information. I'll be in touch. She left after 30 minutes. I called Jeffrey again. The bruise is on her shin. I swear she didn't get it while she was with me. He was quiet for a moment. Does Lily go to daycare? Yeah. Becca mentioned she's in daycare 3 days a week. Get the name and address. I'll have someone check if they have incident reports. 2 days later, Jeffrey called back. The daycare has documentation. Lily fell on the playground Friday afternoon. They noted the bruise and had Becca sign an incident report. The bruise happened the day before your visit. Relief flooded through me. So CPS will close the case? Jeffrey sounded satisfied. Already did. Sandra called me this morning. She reviewed the daycare records and closed the investigation. No finding of abuse or neglect. But this shows Becca's getting desperate. She's willing to make false allegations to hurt your case. That works in our favor long term. I hung up and sat on my couch. My hands were still shaking from stress. Becca had tried to paint me as someone who hurt our daughter. She'd called CPS and lied. The woman I'd planned to marry was willing to destroy me to keep Lily away. Reed called me the following Tuesday. I've got information on Keith you need to hear. What did you find? He got fired. From the work-from-home job? When? 3 weeks ago. Performance issues according to my source at the company. He missed deadlines, didn't respond to emails, basically stopped working. So he's unemployed? Completely. And he's got no other income that I can find. He's living off Becca now. I thanked Reed and called Jeffrey. This is huge. Becca's lawyer has been arguing Keith provides stability and financial support. If he's unemployed and dependent on her, that argument falls apart. Jeffrey sounded energized. I'll file a motion to present this at the follow-up hearing. The judge needs to know the household situation has changed. We can also argue this creates financial stress that impacts Lily's environment. The motion was filed that afternoon. Becca's lawyer objected, calling it irrelevant to custody. The judge disagreed and allowed the evidence. Jeffrey sent me a text later. Hearing is set for March 15th. Get ready. My second unsupervised Saturday arrived. I picked up Lily at the exchange location. She ran to me when she saw me. Dada! I scooped her up and she wrapped her arms around my neck. I'd decided today was the day to bring her to my apartment. She needed to see where I lived. We drove to my building and I carried her upstairs. She looked around with wide eyes. This is Daddy's home. You have a special room here. I set her down and she immediately started exploring. She touched everything. The couch, the coffee table, the TV remote. I followed her around, making sure she stayed safe. She found the bedroom area I'd set up. Crib with pink sheets. Toy box full of stuffed animals and blocks. Small bookshelf with board books. Her face lit up. Mine? Yes, baby. This is your room at Daddy's house. She climbed into the toy box and started pulling out toys. She played for an hour, completely absorbed. I sat on the floor with her, building block towers for her to knock down. She laughed every time they fell. Around noon, she started rubbing her eyes. Sleepy? She nodded. I picked her up and put her in the crib. She didn't protest. I gave her a stuffed bear and covered her with a blanket. She stuck her thumb in her mouth and closed her eyes. I stood there watching her sleep in the crib in my apartment. My daughter sleeping in my home. She napped for 90 minutes. When she woke up, she seemed completely comfortable. No crying, no confusion, just happy to be there. We had lunch at my small kitchen table, sandwiches and fruit. She ate well. After lunch, we played more. She wanted to read books. We sat on the couch and I read to her. She pointed at pictures and named things. Cat, moon, baby. At 4, I packed up her things. Time to go back to Mama. She pouted but didn't cry. We drove to the exchange. Becca was waiting, arms crossed. How was it? Good. She came to my apartment for the first time. She did great. Becca's expression tightened. You took her to your apartment? That's allowed now. Unsupervised visits. She explored and took a nap there. She was comfortable. Becca grabbed Lily without responding. They drove away. I felt good about today. Lily was adjusting to having 2 homes. She was bonding with me. Everything was moving in the right direction. Jeffrey called me Wednesday evening. We got a witness. Becca's childhood friend Haley reached out. She wants to talk. About what? Keith. Apparently Becca's been confiding in her about problems in the relationship. Haley's worried about Lily's safety. I met with Haley and Jeffrey at his office Friday morning. She was a thin woman with nervous energy. She kept wringing her hands. I've known Becca since we were kids. We've been best friends for 20 years. She paused. I'm worried about her. And about Lily. What are you worried about? Haley looked down. Keith has a temper. Becca told me he gets really angry when Lily cries at night. He yells at Becca to make her stop. Has he hurt anyone? Not that I know of. But Becca said he punches walls when he's mad. She sent me pictures. There are holes in the walls of their house. Jeffrey leaned forward. Would you be willing to testify about this? Haley nodded slowly. I don't want to hurt Becca, but I'm scared for Lily. If Keith is that angry around a baby, what happens when she gets older and harder to manage? I think Jason should have custody, at least until Becca gets away from Keith. Jeffrey made notes. This is good. Very good. We'll call you as a witness at the March hearing. Jeffrey called me Tuesday morning with news about the home study. The social worker filed her report from the Arizona visit. I could hear papers rustling on his end. It's not good for Becca. Not good at all. What did she find? Holes in the walls. Multiple holes. Keith apparently punches walls when he gets angry. The neighbors complained to the social worker about loud arguments coming from the house at all hours. One neighbor said she almost called the police twice in the past month because of the yelling. My stomach tightened. Was Lily there during these arguments? The report doesn't specify, but the neighbor mentioned hearing a baby crying during at least one incident. Jeffrey paused. There's more. Keith refused to leave the room when the social worker tried to interview Becca privately. He stood there with his arms crossed and answered questions for her. The social worker noted Becca appeared anxious throughout the entire visit and kept looking at Keith before responding to anything. That's concerning. Very concerning. The judge is going to see this as a red flag about the home environment. I felt relief mixed with worry. Relief that the truth was coming out, but worry about what Lily had been witnessing in that house. When's the next hearing? 3 weeks. We'll present this evidence along with everything else we've gathered. I think we're in a strong position now. Saturday morning, I drove to pick up Lily for our 3rd unsupervised visit. Becca handed her over without much conversation. Back by 5. I buckled Lily into her car seat and she smiled at me. Where are we going? I had something special planned today. We're going to a museum, a place with lots of things to see and play with. She clapped her hands. Play? Yes, baby. Lots of playing. The Children's Museum was 40 minutes away. Lily babbled in the back seat the whole drive, pointing at things out the window. Truck, tree, bird. Her vocabulary was growing every week. We arrived and I carried her inside. The museum had different areas for different ages. A water play section, a pretend grocery store, a room with building blocks, an art station. Lily's eyes went wide when she saw everything. She grabbed my hand. Daddy, look. My heart stopped. Daddy. She said it clearly, not just once. Daddy, come. Daddy, see? She pulled me toward the water play area and spent 20 minutes pouring water from different containers, laughing every time it splashed. I knelt beside her, helping her reach the higher tables, watching her explore. Other parents smiled at us. A dad at the next table nodded. How old? Almost 1. She's very verbal for her age. Thanks. She's smart. We moved to the pretend grocery store. Lily pushed a tiny shopping cart around, putting plastic food in it. She handed me a plastic banana. For you, Daddy. Thank you, sweetheart. She beamed. We played there for another 30 minutes. She was so engaged, so happy. Her personality was really showing now. Confident, curious, silly. She made faces at herself in a mirror and giggled. At the art station, I helped her make handprints with washable paint. She got more paint on herself than the paper, but she loved it. Daddy, messy. Yes, you're very messy. Good thing we can wash it off. We ate lunch at the museum cafe. Lily sat in a high chair and ate chicken nuggets and apple slices. She fed me bites of her food. Daddy, eat. I ate the soggy nugget she offered and made exaggerated happy noises. Delicious. She laughed. After lunch, we went back to the play areas. Lily ran from one thing to the next, calling for me to follow. Daddy, come. Daddy, watch. Every time she said it, I felt grateful and sad at the same time. Grateful for this time with her. Sad about everything I'd missed. Her first words. Her first steps. Months of her growing and changing while I fought just to see her. She'd been 6 months old when Becca left. Now she was almost 1. I'd missed half her first year. But I was here now. That's what mattered. We stayed until 3. Lily started getting tired, rubbing her eyes and moving slower. Time to go, baby. She didn't protest. I carried her to the car and she fell asleep before we left the parking lot. I drove back carefully, checking on her in the mirror. At the exchange, Becca was waiting. Lily woke up when I unbuckled her. She reached for me. Daddy. Becca's expression changed. She's been saying that all day. She said it maybe 50 times. Becca took Lily without responding. They drove away. I sat in my car for a minute. Today had been perfect. Lily knew who I was. She wanted to be with me. We were building something real. Wednesday afternoon, Jeffrey called again. Becca's lawyer reached out about settlement. They want to negotiate? Looks like it. They're proposing shared custody with Lily, primarily in Arizona, but increased visitation for you. Maybe every other weekend and some holidays. I leaned back in my chair. They know they're losing. That's my read on it. The home study was bad for them. The psychological evaluation raised concerns. They're trying to salvage what they can. What do you think I should do? Jeffrey was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I think you should push for primary custody. The evidence we have about Keith's behavior, the holes in the walls, his controlling attitude, all of it suggests Lily isn't safe in that environment. If you settle now, you're accepting a situation that could be harmful for your daughter. But it's your decision. I thought about Lily calling me daddy, about her laughing and playing, about the neighbors hearing arguments and a baby crying. No settlement. We push for primary custody. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. I'll let them know we're not interested in their offer. The following week, Jeffrey set up a meeting at his office for settlement negotiations, despite my decision to push for primary custody. Becca's lawyer insisted. Jeffrey explained they might improve their offer, and it was worth hearing them out. I arrived at Jeffrey's office at 10 on Tuesday morning. Becca was already there with her lawyer, a thin man in an expensive suit. We sat across from each other at the conference table. Jeffrey started. My client is willing to discuss shared custody arrangements. Becca's lawyer jumped in. We're proposing Lily remain primarily in Arizona where she's established, with your client having expanded visitation. Every other weekend, alternating holidays and 2 weeks in summer. I shook my head. That's not acceptable. Lily should live primarily with me. I have stable employment, stable housing, and no concerning home environment issues. Becca spoke up. You work long shifts. Who's going to watch her while you're at the hospital? My mother. Daycare. I have support and resources. Unlike your situation where Keith punches holes in walls. Becca's face reddened. That was one time. He was frustrated about work. One time? The social worker found multiple holes. Neighbors reported loud arguments. Jeffrey held up his hand. Let's stay focused. My client is offering shared custody with Lily living primarily with him. Becca would have regular visitation. But there's one condition. Becca looked at Jeffrey. What condition? Lily can only stay with you when you're living separately from Keith. You need to establish your own residence without him. Becca stood up. Absolutely not. Keith is my partner. We're building a life together. He loves Lily. Jeffrey's voice was calm. The home study raised serious concerns about his presence and behavior. My client won't agree to any arrangement that puts Lily in that environment. Then we have nothing to discuss. Becca's lawyer tried to intervene. Let's take a break and reconvene. Maybe we can find middle ground. I stood too. There's no middle ground here. Lily's safety isn't negotiable. If Becca won't leave Keith, then we'll let the judge decide. And based on the evidence, I'm confident about that outcome. Becca grabbed her purse. You're being unreasonable. I'm being a father. Something Keith will never be to my daughter. We left the conference room. The negotiations were over. That afternoon, Reed called. Remember how I've been digging into Keith's background? Yeah. What did you find? I found someone who knows him. A guy named Christopher who lived in the same neighborhood as Keith about 3 years ago. Christopher has information. What kind of information? Keith moved in with a single mother in their neighborhood. Christopher watched the whole thing unfold. Keith isolated her from friends and family, controlled her money, eventually drained her savings and moved on to the next relationship. Christopher says it's a pattern. He targets vulnerable women with kids. Reed paused. Christopher is willing to testify about what he witnessed. That's huge. Can you send me his contact information? I want Jeffrey to talk to him. Already done. I sent everything to Jeffrey an hour ago. He's setting up a call with Christopher tomorrow. Thank you, Reed. This could make a real difference. Just doing my job. But yeah, this guy Keith is bad news. The more I dig, the worse it gets. Saturday came around again. My 4th unsupervised visit with Lily. I picked her up and brought her back to my apartment. She was comfortable there now. Walked around like she owned the place. We played with blocks on the living room floor. I built towers and she knocked them down, laughing every time. Then she wanted to read books. We sat on the couch and I read her favorite stories. She pointed at pictures and named things. Cat, dog, moon. Around noon she started getting fussy, rubbing her eyes, whining. I think somebody's tired. Let's have lunch and then a nap. I made her a sandwich and cut it into small pieces. She ate a few bites but mostly pushed the food around her plate. Not hungry? She shook her head. Tired. Okay, baby. Let's get you down for a nap. I picked her up to carry her to the crib. She went rigid in my arms. No nap. Yes, nap. You're tired. No. She started crying, real tears. Her face turned red. I tried to soothe her. It's okay. You just need to sleep a little. She thrashed in my arms and no. I sat down on the couch with her. She was having a full tantrum now, screaming and crying. I held her gently but firmly. I know you're tired. I know you don't want a nap, but your body needs rest. She kept crying. I started rocking her slowly, humming a quiet tune. She fought it for a few minutes, then gradually her cries became softer. Her body relaxed against mine. I kept rocking and humming. Within 10 minutes, she was asleep. I carried her carefully to the crib and laid her down. She didn't wake up. I stood there watching her sleep, feeling proud of myself. I'd handled a tantrum, stayed calm, got her to sleep without giving in or getting frustrated. These were the normal parenting moments I'd been fighting for. The hard parts along with the easy parts. I took photos of her sleeping peacefully, documented the whole afternoon in my notes. Fed her lunch, she had a tantrum, I calmed her down and got her to nap successfully. Jeffrey said documentation was important. Proof that I could handle all aspects of parenting, not just the fun stuff. Lily slept for 90 minutes. When she woke up, she was happy again. No memory of the tantrum. We played more and had a snack. At 4:30, I packed her things. Ready to go back to Mama? She nodded. Okay, Daddy. The drive back was quiet. She looked out the window. At the exchange, Becca took her. How was today? Good. She had a small tantrum before her nap, but I got her calmed down. She's fine now. Becca's eyes narrowed. What kind of tantrum? Normal toddler stuff. She was tired and didn't want to sleep. I handled it. Becca didn't respond, just turned and walked to her car with Lily. Jeffrey called me the next week. The final custody hearing is scheduled. When? Late April. That's 6 months after the paternity test confirmed you're Lily's father. We have about 4 weeks to prepare. What do we need to do? We need to organize all our evidence. Witness testimony from Haley, Christopher, your mother, Becca's mother, documentation of the home studies, Megan's psychological evaluation, everything that shows you're the stable parent and that Keith's presence creates an unsafe environment. Jeffrey paused. We also need to prepare you to testify. You'll be on the stand answering questions about your relationship with Lily, your parenting abilities, your home and work situation. I felt nervous. What if I mess up? You won't. We'll practice. I'll ask you every possible question so you're ready. This is it, Jason. This is what we've been working toward. I know. I'm ready. Over the next few weeks, Jeffrey and I met multiple times. He asked me questions and I practiced answering. Why do you want custody of Lily? Because she's my daughter and I love her. I want to be her father every day, not just on weekends. What makes you a good parent? I'm stable. I have a good job and a safe home. I'm patient and loving with Lily. She's bonded with me and she's happy when we're together. How will you balance work and parenting? My mother will help. I've arranged daycare near the hospital. I've adjusted my schedule to work 4 10-hour shifts instead of 5 8s. I have a plan and support. We went through dozens of questions. Jeffrey made notes on my answers, suggested better ways to phrase things. By the third practice session, I felt more confident. The hearing was scheduled for the last week of April. 6 months of fighting was coming to a decision point. 3 days before the hearing, Becca filed a last-minute motion. Jeffrey called me immediately. "She's claiming you have a drinking problem." "What?" "I don't have a drinking problem." "I know. It's a desperate move. She's trying to throw anything at the wall to see what sticks." "What do? We disprove it." "I've already contacted your employer. They're willing to provide testimony about your work performance and the fact that you've never shown up impaired. You also have random drug testing results from the hospital that are all negative. We'll present all of that. The judge isn't going to buy this claim." At the hearing, Becca's lawyer presented their motion. "Your Honor, we have concerns about the father's alcohol consumption and its impact on his ability to parent." Jeffrey stood. "Your Honor, this is a baseless accusation made at the last minute. We have evidence that directly contradicts this claim." My employer testified. "I've supervised Jason for 4 years. He's never missed a shift, never shown any signs of impairment. His performance reviews are excellent. He undergoes random drug and alcohol testing as required by hospital policy. All results have been negative." The judge looked annoyed. "Do you have any actual evidence of a drinking problem?" Becca's lawyer shuffled papers. "The mother reports that he drinks beer after his shifts," Jeffrey responded. "Having an occasional beer is not evidence of a drinking problem. The drug testing results prove there's no substance abuse issue." The judge cut him off. "I've heard enough. This motion is denied. Proceed with the custody hearing." Becca's lawyer looked embarrassed. Becca stared at the table. The final hearing began. Jeffrey called me to testify first. I walked to the stand and was sworn in. Jeffrey started with easy questions. "State your name and occupation for the record." "Jason Miller. I'm a registered nurse at County Hospital. How long have you been employed there?" 4 years. Jeffrey walked me through my relationship with Becca, Lily's birth, and Becca's disappearance. Then he asked about my bond with Lily. "Tell the court about your relationship with your daughter." "I love Lily more than anything. When Becca left with her, I spent every day trying to find them. Once I got visitation, I never missed a single visit. Lily knows me now. She calls me Daddy. We have a strong bond. She's happy and comfortable with me." "What kind of father do you want to be?" "I want to be there for everything. School events, bedtime stories, teaching her to ride a bike. I want to be the person she can count on. I acknowledge I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. But I've never wavered in wanting to be her father." I paused. Becca took 6 months from us. 6 months of Lily's life that I can't get back. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. I saw people in the courtroom wiping their eyes. My mother was crying. The judge was listening carefully, taking notes. Jeffrey asked more questions about my home, my support system, my plans for childcare. I answered everything honestly. When he finished, Becca's lawyer cross-examined me. "But you work long shifts. How will you manage a toddler?" "With help from my mother and daycare. Lots of working parents manage. I have a solid plan. You've only had unsupervised visits for a few months. How do you know you can handle full-time parenting?" "Because I've been doing it during those visits. I've handled tantrums, meals, naps, all of it. I'm her father. I can do this." The cross-examination continued, but I felt good about my answers. When I stepped down, Jeffrey looked satisfied. Becca took the stand next. Her lawyer asked her questions about why she left. I felt unsupported. Jason was always working. I was alone with a newborn. I needed help. "Why didn't you tell Jason you were leaving?" "I was scared. Our relationship had become toxic. I needed to protect myself and Lily." Jeffrey stood for cross-examination. "Missy Anderson, you testified that you felt unsupported. Did you ever communicate these concerns to Jason before you left?" Becca hesitated. "I tried." "How specifically did you try? Did you tell him you were unhappy? Did you suggest counseling? Did you ask for more help?" She looked uncomfortable. "I don't remember exactly." "You don't remember. But you remember feeling unsupported." Becca's voice got defensive. "Yes. I remember feeling alone and scared." Jeffrey continued. "You also testified that your relationship was toxic. Can you provide specific examples of toxic behavior?" Becca faltered. "He was controlling." "How was he controlling? Did he restrict your activities? Monitor your communications? Prevent you from seeing friends or family?" She glanced at Keith in the gallery. "He just was." Jeffrey pressed. "You can't provide specific examples because there aren't any, correct? The relationship wasn't toxic. You simply wanted to be with Keith." Objection. Becca's lawyer stood. The judge sustained it, but the damage was done. Jeffrey moved on. "You're currently living with Keith, correct?" "Yes." The home study found holes in walls from Keith punching them. Are you concerned about that behavior around your daughter? Becca's eyes filled with tears. That was one incident. He was frustrated. One incident? The social worker found multiple holes. Neighbors reported loud arguments with a baby crying in the background. How is that a safe environment? I don't know. Her voice was small. You're prioritizing your relationship with Keith over your daughter's relationship with her father, aren't you? Number. Then why did you refuse to consider living separately from Keith during settlement negotiations? Because Keith is my partner. So yes, you're prioritizing him. Becca started crying. I'm trying to do what's best for Lily. Jeffrey's voice was firm. What's best for Lily is having a stable home with her father. A home without holes in the walls and loud arguments. No more questions. Becca stepped down, looking shaken. The judge gathered her papers and stood. We'll take a 15-minute recess while I review the materials. Court rose as she left through the door behind the bench. I sat back down between Jeffrey and my mother, my hands shaking. Jeffrey leaned over and squeezed my shoulder without saying anything. My mother grabbed my hand and held it tight. I could feel her trembling too. Across the aisle, Becca sat with her lawyer, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Her mother sat behind her, looking uncomfortable. Keith wasn't in the courtroom anymore. He'd been asked to leave after he started yelling during testimony about how the system was rigged against men like him. The bailiff had escorted him out while he shouted about his rights. The irony wasn't lost on me. I checked my phone. Nothing important. Just a text from a coworker asking how it went. I couldn't respond yet. Didn't know what to say. The 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. I watched the clock on the wall tick forward. My leg bounced up and down. Jeffrey put his hand on my knee to stop it. Sorry, I whispered. He shook his head like it was fine. The door behind the bench opened. Everyone stood as the judge returned to her seat. She had a stack of papers in front of her now. She put on her reading glasses and looked out at the courtroom. Her face gave nothing away. I held my breath. In the matter of custody of the minor child Lily Anderson, the judge began. I've reviewed all evidence submitted, including the home study reports, psychological evaluations, witness testimony, and documented history of both parents' involvement in the child's life. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. The judge continued. This case presents a situation where a mother removed a child from the father's care without notice or agreement, establishing residence in another state. While I understand Miss Anderson's testimony about feeling unsupported, the evidence doesn't support a claim of danger or necessity for such drastic action. She paused and looked at Becca. Taking a child from their other parent without communication or legal process is not acceptable, regardless of the parent's relationship status. I felt a tiny spark of hope. The judge shuffled her papers. However, I must also consider the child's current attachments and stability. Lily has been in Ms. Anderson's primary care for several months now. That said, the evidence shows Mr. Miller has consistently sought to maintain his parental relationship despite significant obstacles. She looked directly at me. Mr. Miller has demonstrated commitment to his daughter through these proceedings. He has maintained employment, completed parenting classes, participated fully in supervised visitation, and shown appropriate parenting skills during evaluations. The psychological evaluation indicates he has a secure attachment with Lily and poses no risk to her well-being. My mother squeezed my hand harder. The judge turned to Becca. Miss? Anderson's living situation raises concerns. The home study documented property damage consistent with anger management issues from her partner. Multiple neighbors reported loud arguments. Missy Anderson's partner inserted himself into a parental role inappropriately quickly and demonstrated boundary issues during evaluation. She took off her glasses. Most concerning is Miss Anderson's continued prioritization of this relationship over co-parenting cooperation with Mr. Miller. She refused to consider living arrangements that would facilitate better co-parenting during settlement negotiations. This suggests poor judgment regarding her daughter's need for both parents. I could barely breathe. Therefore, the judge said, I'm ordering primary physical custody be placed with Mr. Miller. The words hit me like lightning. I gasped. My mother started crying beside me. Jeffrey gripped my shoulder. Lily will reside primarily with her father, the judge continued. Missy Anderson will have visitation every other weekend from Friday evening through Sunday evening, alternating major holidays and 2 weeks during summer. All exchanges will occur at a neutral location. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Additionally, the judge said, I'm ordering that Keith Smith have no contact with the minor child until he completes anger management counseling and undergoes a separate psychological evaluation. If Ms. Anderson wishes to increase her parenting time in the future, she must demonstrate 6 months of stability, including appropriate boundaries with romantic partners and consistent co-parenting communication. Becca sobbed loudly. Her lawyer put an arm around her. Miss Anderson will continue supervised visitation for the first month under this new order, the judge said. After that, if visits go well, supervision will be lifted. Mr. Miller will arrange appropriate childcare during his work hours. A transition plan will be implemented over the next 2 weeks with daily visits to help Lily adjust to the change in primary residence. She looked at both of us. I expect both parents to prioritize this child's well-being over their personal conflicts. Lily deserves to have a relationship with both of you. Mr. Miller, do you understand this custody order? I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. Yes, Your Honor, I understand. My hands were shaking. 6 months of fighting, 6 months of supervised visits and legal fees and sleepless nights. And now Lily was coming home. The judge asked Becca the same question. Becca could barely get the words out through her crying. Yes, Your Honor. Court is adjourned, the judge said. She stood and left the courtroom. I turned to Jeffrey. He was smiling. We did it, he said quietly. My mother hugged me tight, crying into my shoulder. I just sat there in shock. People started filing out of the courtroom. Becca's family surrounded her. I heard her mother trying to comfort her. Jeffrey started packing up his briefcase. The transition plan starts tomorrow, he said. You'll have daily 2-hour visits for a week, then 4-hour visits for a week, then she moves in full time. I nodded, still processing. I need to take time off work. Already thought of that, Jeffrey said. I drafted a letter for your employer explaining the situation. He handed me a folder. I stood up on shaky legs. My mother held my arm to steady me. Let's get out of here, she said. We walked out of the courtroom. In the hallway, I saw Becca's lawyer talking to her. Becca looked devastated. Part of me felt bad for her, but mostly I felt relief and joy and gratitude. Lily was coming home. I called my supervisor from the parking lot. She answered on the second ring. I need to take 2 weeks off, I said. Starting tomorrow. There was a pause. I explained about the custody ruling and the transition plan. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Take 3 weeks. You'll need time to adjust. Thank you, I said. My voice broke. You've been through hell, Jason, she said. Go be with your daughter. I hung up and sat in my car. My mother had driven separately. She knocked on my window. I rolled it down. You okay? She asked. I don't know, I said. I think so. She smiled. I'm so proud of you. I'm coming over tomorrow to help you get ready. I drove home in a daze. The apartment felt different when I walked in. It was about to become Lily's home, too. I looked around at what needed to be done. The spare bedroom needed to be converted into a real nursery. I had a crib, but I needed more. A changing table and a dresser, more toys, books, clothes in the right sizes because she'd grown so much. I made a list. Then I sat on the couch and just breathed. My phone buzzed. Text from my coworker, Sarah. How did it go? I got primary custody, I typed back. She moves in 2 weeks. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, oh my God, Jason, congratulations! I'm so happy for you. More texts came in as word spread through the hospital. Coworkers I barely knew sent congratulations, offers to help, gift cards. One nurse sent $100 with a note that said, for Lily's room. I cried reading the messages. The next morning, my mother showed up at 8 with coffee and a determined look. Let's go shopping, she said. We went to Target first. I pushed a cart while she grabbed things. Clothes in size 18 months, sippy cups, plates with dividers, a step stool for the bathroom, books. So many books. Bath toys, pajamas, sheets for the crib, a nightlight. The cart filled up fast. At checkout, the total made me wince. My mother pulled out her credit card. Mom, no, I said. She handed it to the cashier. You've spent enough on lawyers. Let me do this. We loaded everything into my car. Then we went to a furniture store. I picked out a changing table and a dresser that matched the crib. A small bookshelf. A rocking chair for bedtime stories. Delivery would be tomorrow. Back at my apartment, we started setting up. My mother washed all the new clothes while I assembled furniture. The changing table took an hour because the instructions were terrible. The dresser was easier. By evening, the room was starting to look right. We hung curtains, put books on the shelf, arranged stuffed animals on the dresser. My mother stepped back and smiled. She's going to love it. I had my first transition visit that evening. I drove to the visitation center where Becca was waiting with Lily. The monitor was there too. This will be different from supervised visits, the monitor explained. You'll have more freedom. We're just here to help with the transition. I took Lily from Becca. She came to me easily now. Hey, baby girl, I said. Becca looked away. I spent 2 hours playing with Lily at the center. She walked around exploring. We read books. She sat in my lap and babbled. When it was time to go, she cried a little. "That's good," the monitor said. "She's bonding with you." The next day was the same. 2 hours at the center. Lily was more comfortable. She laughed when I made funny faces. She brought me toys to play with. By the third visit, she ran to me when I arrived. The monitor took notes and smiled. On day 4, I brought her to my apartment for the first time under the new arrangement. She toddled around looking at everything. I showed her the new bedroom. She touched the crib, picked up a stuffed elephant and hugged it. "This is your room," I said. "This is your home now." She didn't understand yet, but she would. My mother came over to help. Lily remembered her from previous visits and reached for her. They played while I made dinner. Simple stuff. Chicken nuggets and applesauce. Lily ate sitting in the high chair I'd bought. She made a mess. I cleaned her up and didn't care about the applesauce in her hair. After dinner, we played more. Then it was time to take her back to Becca. Lily cried when I put her in the car seat. "I know, baby," I said. "I know. But you'll be back tomorrow." The second week, visits went to 4 hours. I picked Lily up in the morning and brought her to my apartment. We had breakfast together, played, went to the park. I pushed her on the swings and she laughed. We had lunch. She took a nap in her new crib. When she woke up, we read books in the rocking chair. Then I had to take her back to Becca. Each time got harder. On Friday of the second week, my coworkers threw me a party during lunch break. Someone had bought a cake that said, "Congratulations, Dad." They'd collected gift cards, Target, Amazon, Walmart. The pile was huge. "I'm going to cry," I said. Sarah hugged me. "We're all so happy for you." One of the older nurses pulled me aside. "I went through something similar 20 years ago," she said. "It gets easier. You're doing great." The following Monday was the day. Lily was moving in permanently. I took the day off work. My mother came over early. We made breakfast and waited. At 10, I drove to Becca's hotel. She was staying locally for now before going back to Arizona. She met me in the parking lot with Lily and 2 bags of stuff. "Lily's things," Becca said. Her voice was flat. She looked tired. "There's a bear she sleeps with, and a blanket. They're in the blue bag." "Okay," I said. Becca knelt down and hugged Lily. "Mommy loves you," she said. "I'll see you soon." Lily didn't understand what was happening. She waved bye-bye like it was a normal visit. I put her in the car seat. Becca stood watching. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered she'd taken Lily from me without warning, that she'd tried to make Keith replace me. I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Becca standing alone in the parking lot. At home, my mother had lunch ready. We ate together. Then Lily and I played. She explored her room more thoroughly now, pulled books off the shelf, opened dresser drawers, climbed on the rocking chair. I followed her around, making sure she was safe. That night, I gave her a bath. She splashed and played with the bath toys. I wrapped her in a towel and got her into pajamas. We read 3 books in the rocking chair. She started yawning. I put her in the crib with her bear and blanket, sang a lullaby my mother used to sing to me. She fell asleep holding the bear. I stood there watching her breathe. My daughter. In her room. In our home. I went to the living room where my mother was waiting. "She's asleep," I said. My mother hugged me. "You did it, Jason. You brought her home." I sat on the couch and finally let myself feel everything. Relief, joy, exhaustion, gratitude. 6 months of fighting. 6 months of supervised visits and legal bills and sleepless nights. 6 months of being told I might lose her forever. And now she was here, in the next room, safe, home, where she belonged. The weeks after Lily moved in became our new normal. I worked my shifts, picked her up from daycare, made dinner, played, gave baths, read books, tucked her in. Simple routines that felt like miracles. Every morning she woke up calling for me. Every night she fell asleep in my arms. My apartment transformed into a real home with toys scattered everywhere and baby food jars lining the pantry shelves. My coworkers noticed the change in me. I smiled more. Talked about Lily constantly. Showed everyone the photos on my phone of her learning to stack blocks or trying new foods. They were genuinely happy for me after watching me fight for months. Becca's visits happened every other weekend at a supervised center. She showed up on time and followed the rules. The monitors reported she engaged appropriately with Lily, though she still cried sometimes when the visits ended. I tried not to feel satisfaction about that. Lily was adjusting well to having 2 parents in separate places. She waved goodbye to Becca without much fuss and reached for me when I arrived for pickup. The bond between us grew stronger every day. She trusted me completely now, knew I would always come back for her. 3 months passed. Summer arrived. Lily turned 1-year-old in July. I planned a party at my apartment for her birthday. Invited my mother, my sister who drove in from 2 states away, several co-workers, and 3 families from daycare whose kids Lily played with. I bought decorations, ordered a cake, prepared food. My mother came early to help set everything up. Lily wore a pink dress my sister bought her and had frosting in her hair within minutes of seeing the cake. Kids ran around my small apartment while adults talked and laughed. It felt normal, happy, like a real family celebration. Becca was allowed to attend for 2 hours as part of her visitation schedule. She arrived exactly on time, carrying a wrapped present. My mother greeted her politely. Becca looked nervous walking into my apartment surrounded by my people. She knelt down and gave Lily the present, a stuffed unicorn that Lily immediately hugged. For those 2 hours, Becca was appropriate. She played with Lily, talked to my mother about how much Lily had grown, thanked me quietly for including her in the party. When her time ended, she kissed Lily goodbye and left without drama. It was the first civil interaction we'd had in nearly a year. I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of learning to coexist. 2 weeks after the party, Jeffrey called me. Becca had reached out through him asking to discuss better communication about Lily's needs and development. She wanted to use a co-parenting app that would document all our conversations and keep everything focused on Lily rather than our personal conflicts. Jeffrey thought it was a good idea. Structure would help, documentation would protect both of us. I agreed. We set up accounts on the app that night. Becca sent her first message the next morning asking about Lily's sleep schedule and favorite foods. I responded with detailed information. She thanked me. The structured communication helped immediately. No more loaded texts, no more arguments, just facts about our daughter. I started sharing Lily's milestones through the app. First time she climbed the stairs, new words she learned, funny things she did. Becca responded with appreciation and sometimes shared memories from when Lily was younger. The distance between us felt less hostile. We were learning to be parents together even if we couldn't be together. Lily thrived with the consistency. Her pediatrician commented during her 15-month checkup about how well-adjusted she seemed. Happy, secure, developing right on track. I kept detailed records of everything. Doctor visits, daycare reports, new skills, growth measurements, shared it all with Becca through the app. Tried to include her in Lily's life despite the miles between us. Fall came. Lily started walking confidently and saying dozens of words. She called me daddy and understood routines completely. Knew that after daycare we went home. After dinner came bath time. After books came sleep. The structure made her feel safe. My mother visited twice a week and Lily lit up every time she arrived. They had a special bond that made me grateful my daughter had a grandmother who loved her so much. Work stabilized too. My supervisor gave me consistent schedules that worked with daycare hours. Colleagues covered for me when Lily got sick. The hospital felt like family supporting me through single parenthood. Jeffrey called in October with news. Becca had completed all her required counseling sessions and anger management classes. The judge agreed to unsupervised visitation. Lily would still live primarily with me, but Becca could have visits without monitors present. Becca's mother had also called Jeffrey to share information. Becca had ended her relationship with Keith and moved into her own apartment back in our home state. She was living alone, working a regular job, attending therapy, making changes that suggested she was prioritizing Lily's well-being over romantic relationships. I felt cautiously hopeful. Maybe Becca was finally becoming the mother Lily deserved. The first unsupervised visit happened on a Saturday. I drove Lily to meet Becca at a park halfway between our homes. Becca looked different. Thinner, tired, but more present somehow. She took Lily for 4 hours. They went to lunch and played at the park. When Becca brought her back, she was exactly on time. Lily seemed happy, not upset or confused, just a kid who spent time with her mom. Becca stood at my car for a moment after buckling Lily into her seat. She looked at me directly for the first time in months. Thank you. For what? For fighting for her. Even when it meant fighting against me. I didn't know what to say. Becca continued. I made terrible choices. Keith was manipulative and controlling. I should have listened to everyone telling me to leave. I should have never taken Lily from you. It was the first time she'd taken real accountability. I'm still angry about what you put us through. I know. I'm sorry. It doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I nodded. Appreciated the acknowledgement, even though it didn't erase months of pain. Visits continued through winter. Becca came every other weekend. Sometimes took Lily for a full day, sometimes just a few hours. Lily adjusted to having 2 homes even though mine was her primary one. She called us both her parents. Seemed to understand she had a mommy and a daddy who lived in different places, but both loved her. Watching her healthy development made everything worthwhile. All the legal bills, all the sleepless nights, all the fighting. Worth it to see my daughter thriving. By spring, Lily was 18 months old. She ran everywhere, talked constantly, showed secure attachment to me while also enjoying time with Becca. She had favorite toys and favorite books, preferences about food, opinions about everything. Her personality emerged fully, and she was funny and stubborn and sweet. My mother joked that she was exactly like me as a toddler. I rebuilt my savings slowly, put money aside each month, started a college fund for Lily even though college was years away. My career moved forward too. The hospital offered me a promotion with better pay and more regular hours. I accepted. Life stabilized into a routine that worked with Lily at the center of everything. Looking back on the past year felt surreal. 12 months ago, I was desperate and terrified, fighting a system that seemed designed to keep fathers from their children, spending every dollar I had on lawyers, wondering if I would ever get my daughter back. Now she slept in the next room, woke up calling for me every morning, knew I was her home. I was proud I never gave up even when everyone told me to accept defeat, even when the odds seemed impossible. Lily would grow up knowing her father fought for her, that she was always wanted and always loved. Becca and I would never be friends. Too much damage, too much pain. But we were learning to coexist respectfully for Lily's sake, using the app to communicate, keeping visits consistent, putting our daughter first. That was what mattered most. Not our failed relationship, not our anger at each other, just Lily. Healthy and happy and safe, finally home where she belonged.